Clients are constantly adding me to remove objects from photos, whether they don't like the look of the lamp, they want the girl removed because they just want the texture, they want to add their own product. There's so many different reasons why you need to eliminate a particular piece from a photo. And how do you do that realistically? How do I remove this lamp? What do I put behind it? And that's a great question I hope to resolve. There's something called the content aware tool, which can literally, we can trace around a object, and Photoshop has an algorithm that will fill that place inside with an average of what's around it. So we'll take an average of what's around it to create something behind it. And so we're going to do that real quickly here. So to be able to use the content aware tools, we first need to make our selection. So I'm just going to grab the simple lasso tool and I'm just going to trace around the object. I'm going to do a little bit of a border around my object so it doesn't bring any of the shadows cast by the object. We want to go ahead and eliminate those too. So I'm doing a really nice generous margin around the object, and you're going to go to Edit. You're going to go to Fill. There's also Content Aware Fill as well, but we're just going to go to Fill right now. And we have this set on Content Aware, and we're going to have Color Adaptation selected. We're just going to click OK. It's going to magically disappear. It's going to be fun to watch. And so it's not always perfect. What it did is it kind of took a sample of what's around it and tried to fill it in with similar texture. But as you see, it kind of got this little bit of an awkward shadow cast behind. So you almost always have to go back and kind of do a second little fill, just kind of going over that area. You go to Edit, Fill. Let's go ahead and do a content fill. And then there's also things you could do to make it a little bit better by cloning, using the cloning tool. So I'm going to grab the clone tool right here. I'm going to get a nice, pretty decent sized brush. It's going to be the soft round brush. I'm going to hold down Option to take a sample. I'm going to take a sample not of the blurry area, but of this nice crisp area. So I just clicked and took a sample. I'm not going to do 100% opacity because you're going to see exactly where I'm painting the brush. So if you do a 50% opacity, it'll be a little bit more subtle and it will blend in better. And then I'll take another sample again, drag it over. And I'll just continue to do this until I get a more of a seamless texture and pattern. You could probably spend another 10 minutes kind of going around and doing that. You can also increase the opacity just a little bit to get more of that stronger, trying to get that blur out of there. So now we need to remove the woman from the photo. So I'm going to do the same thing and go ahead and do my lasso tool. Now we're going to grab our lasso tool and we're going to trace her and have a nice generous margin. We're going to do something a little bit different. Before we just went up to Edit, we went to Fill, and we just selected Content Fill, Content Aware. But as you can see, there's its very own option, Content Aware Fill, here in the Edit menu. We're going to select this one. And the difference is we're going to have a little bit more control with our selection. So as you can see here, this green part is the sample area. So the algorithm is going to sample everything in this green area to create the area in the woman selection. So it can be able to find samples of pixels to use to replace. So we can eliminate things that we don't want to be a part of the sample. So this little door here, we really don't want that to come through. We just want the blue texture. So I am just getting rid of items that I don't want it to sample. So the green is where it's going to take that texture sample from. And I'm going to go down here to Output Settings, and I'm just going to do Current Layer. You can actually do a new layer, and it'll create a new layer with what it replaces on the inside, but I'm just going to do a current layer. And I'm going to go ahead and click on OK. Okay. So it went ahead and did an OK job. There's still some kind of imperfections, but I'm just going to continue to trace around areas until I get smaller and smaller and gets a little bit better. So I'm going to do the same thing, go to Content Aware Fill. Go ahead and click on OK. And each time, that's going to get a little better and better. And you can also go back with the clone tool and did what we did before. We take large samples and we kind of paint over, just kind of smooth out. There's a little bit of a rough texture left over behind after we removed everything. So you go in with the clone tool and kind of clean it up a little bit more. There's also something I wanted to review, and that's the Healing Brush tool. You can find the Healing Brush tool right over here on the toolbar, Healing Brush tool. And what's great about this is it's a brush version of the Content Fill, Content Aware. So instead of having to go up there and select, you can actually paint on where you want the changes to be. So I'm going to get a nice big brush. And we're just going to paint the areas that we want it to kind of replace. Let's sample here. This can kind of help us clean up our texture a little bit. Sometimes you have to use a combination of different tools to get the right effect that you're going for. So I'm just holding down, works just like the clone tool. I'm going to hold down the Option key to take a little sample if this is nice and clean up here, and I'm just painting it on. Just taking samples of nearby textures to kind of clean it up a little bit.